Welcome back to the Family Flex podcast. I'm your host, Martha Wilkins, my husband, Solomon Wilkins. And today's episode, we're talking about how to stay true to yourself in a marriage. It's a big topic.
It's a great question. Let's jump into it.
This topic comes up often, throughout our marriage and probably for other couples. How do you stay true to yourself as, a wife, a husband, a mother, father, a friend, coworker, any title that you can think of, right? Um, and with all these titles, having children, it sometimes it gets lost, just your identity as a whole.
Basically, once you become a parent, once you become a father, a husband, how do you identify outside of that household? Like, what's important to you? How do you identify who you are in your marriage and still maintain your independence and your identity?
Well, you tell me how you do that.
That's why I go to the gym, right? Like, the gym allows me to be authentic to who I am. It allows me to challenge myself every morning, right? I wake up before anybody else is up. I go to the gym, and that gives me permission for that day to show up as my whole self because I've already did something really hard early in the morning.
Mhm. But what happens when you can't do that? You get frustrated.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we got 4 kids. So for me, when I can't go to the gym, when I don't get to stay consistent in my routine, it is challenging. It is frustrating, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
hmm Yeah, I think just to jump on that, the frustration part, I think it looks different for everybody because one, I know how high functioning you are and how much structure really means to you. But for me, it doesn't bother me as much, right? Like if I'm out of routine, that's not going to make or break me. But I do feel like for me over time, having kids, it compiles. And I think losing yourself is a slow process. For some people it can happen, like within weeks. But like for me, like as we got married and then we had Jesus first living in LA, and then I had Mela and then Salo, and then I feel like with every kid I lost a little bit of myself,
Mm.
and gaining that back takes just as long as losing it because you get in this cycle, you get in this habit of putting everyone else first and putting all things beside yourself as a priority. Then it becomes like something that you don't even think about. And so that slow process to me sometimes leads to resentment, and you don't recognize it like right away. Like you start doing like little things that you do will irritate me, or I'll be short with the kids or frustrated, and then I'm like, where is this coming from? But it was building up from like weeks and months and years of not acknowledging like, hey, I need some time to like recoup. Like I just had a baby. I'm doing all this stuff. I just got back to work, and it gets frustrating. And then also not being able to recognize that, but also not having your significant other recognize that either. So then both of you are just button heads and no one knows like where this frustration comes from. So I think it's important to acknowledge where the start of the feeling is coming from the beginning if you can. Sometimes you can't, right? Like it took me a while to like really figure out like what was wrong. And then you come to terms and you're like, okay, like this is something that I feel we need to address and kind of work through it so that I don't start resenting you, and then it interferes with our marriage, and then my parenting skills or just me as a person. You show up, you're just like so different from how you used to be, and you've said that to me before, like you didn't used to be as mean. And now that I look back, like, yeah, because a part of it was I was frustrated with you, and like, it's not your fault, but we have to work together. And I think a lot of times you have in your head, like, oh, I want to go to the gym and I need to do this for myself. Like, okay, yeah, but what about me over here? So that's when we start butting heads and getting into it.
Yeah, but I've consistently said to you, uh, go to the gym.
Do
If
whatever
you
you need
if
to
you
do.
if you wake up early, because there's times where you're like, I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm gonna go to the gym, and then I'm like, you should, right? I say that all the time to
Yeah,
you,
I
and
know.
then you don't, right? You do sometimes, but like that's not your thing, right? So I'm consistently trying to say to you, what is your thing? Like whatever your thing is, you should go explore it, and you do that. Like you been in the fitness for as long as forever, right? I think for you, if you really think about it, part of your frustration, yes, in addition to the kids and all of that, I do travel for work, but it's more so about like what's going on with your knee, right?
Mm,
And your knee, because you had surgery on it and you're still in the process of recovering, it's not allowing you to it's not allowing you to do the things that you're used to doing. And because of that, you don't have, in my opinion, um, the time. You're used to high functioning exercises, you're used to high intensity interval training, and because you can't do that, because you can't show up every day and give the 100% that you're used to giving, you haven't changed your mindset to say, "Hey, I'm gonna do my best today, and I'm gonna be okay with that." But because your best now isn't what your best used to be, that's hard for you to accept.
yeah, you're absolutely right. But we're talking like one season. I was more
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
talking about the course of our marriage and our relationship, just to kind of, you know, have some common ground. But uh, speaking to that, yes, I feel right now with my knee injury and surgery, what, 6 months ago, I'm still not back to myself. And but doing the work before that, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
more grounded now, because if I hadn't had this foundation, like moving forward, what we 12 years into our marriage, like it would be a disaster at this point, because one, now I can't do the things I used to do. We got one more kid in addition to what we had before, and now you're traveling a lot more with work and things are picking up. So I'm going back to like maybe couple years, maybe when Mella was born, and just learning that process of how to, you'll fall out of self identity and then you kind of come back. And so people are probably wondering, like, what does that look like, for you, for me? I think it's, like I said, a slow process that over time you kind of learn how to be a little more selfish than you used to be, but selfless as well with your family, and which is a big balancing act. And a lot of people are like, oh, you balance it so well, and you do this. Like some days I feel like I do, some days I don't. And that's okay. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I don't balance it well, or I don't feel like I do, and it doesn't look like I do. But you learn, right, through situations and circumstances that happen, having kids, um, when you lost your job, right? You're unemployed for 13 months.
Whew.
Like that was a huge blow on our family. And being pregnant with Roman, so that's another season, right? So
Yep.
like we have all these seasons that we go through, and we learn how to stay true to ourselves in the midst of the storm, but also having enough, discernment to look on the other side and be like, this is just temporary. And that's part of the process too, that as you go through things as a couple, as in your marriage, you realize that you're stronger than you think, and those things help you build resilience. They help you kind of overcome situations. And so when our next storm, we're not so frazzled, and we're not allowing it to cause us to like resent each other, because it did happen a little bit. And I'm like, man, I'm getting up pregnant, going to work, and he's sitting here looking for a job, staying at home. But I knew you were working towards it. It's just hard.
Yeah. That was a tough season.
Hmm.
Um, but we still was able to maintain. I was able to, you know, for me that season was tough because I think as a man, like sometimes when you're not able to provide in the way that you are accustomed to, and I'm not talking about the mortgage and all that, right? That was paid. But as a man, when you're used to providing for your family, not just financially, but like when you're used to just being there and being present, and I felt like that moment, I lost some of myself, right? And I lost some of myself because I wasn't, I had tied my self worth to my titles, right? And in that moment, I was forced to be stripped of my identity because not having a job took all my titles away. Then I wasn't some vice president. Then I wasn't some director, right? And it forced me to look in the mirror and realize, like, how can you stay true to yourself while you're married, while you have these kids? And I think those 13 months gave me time to really be more introspective, to be more intentional. And I feel like coming out of that, being in this new season, like we're about to kill it because I can feel like how I'm showing up more for
Mhm.
you, how I'm showing up more for the kids. I'm a lot more present. And those 13 months taught me the importance of staying true to who I am and ultimately um, redefining and identifying who I am moving forward. Because one of the things you talked about is being in different seasons, right? And you have three biological kids. I have four biological kids, right? I have a 22-year-old all the way down to a 1-year-old, right?
Mhm. Ooh.
I know. And so one of the things Jesus always says is, you know, these kids getting the rich Solomon Wilkins.
Mm.
I got the broke Solomon Wilkins, right? And so as
That's why you be like, I got it out the mud.
exactly,
Mel, Roman, you'll never know what that feels like.
never know what that feels like, right?
Right.
And so for me, staying true to myself, like through every stage, it has required me to reevaluate my priorities,
Mhm.
identify what I want the next 5 or so years of our lives to look like, of my life individually to look like, and from there, I feel like we're hitting a solid groove as a couple, as a family. I feel like the progress that we've made, not even about financial, just about how we show up for each other, right?
Mhm.
Like me coaching the kids, you being at all the games, recording videos for the kids. Like we show up for each other as a family, but I also feel like we're at a spot where we're really starting to enjoy our individual identity as well.
Yeah. So, do you think that um, you're required to go through some storms in order to be able to keep your identity in a marriage? That's kind of what I'm hearing, right?
The storms are important,
Yeah.
right? Because the storms move you after the storm is typically a new season, right? It's a
Mhm.
metaphor for life, but it's what really happens, right? So
Right. That's where you see the growth, right? And I think that further allows you to separate because it was clear cut for you. It was like you strip all these titles away, and I feel like God has his way of doing things um, because you were so, I'm not saying you were like cocky with the position that you were in, but you had just got that VP role with
uh,
Everest and you were, feeling yourself a little bit.
who wouldn't be?
I mean, yeah, but
Come on.
also it's just like not that's not who Solomon Wilkins solely identifies as. And I
Yeah.
saw it firsthand. It's like, okay, you got this role, you're doing this, but like God sees us stripped of all of that. And same thing for me. Like I could say the same thing about my knee. It was like I'm just like all into fitness, health, wellness, PA, athletic trainer, this, and that, and the other. And then I hate when people say that, this, that, and the other. But
This, that, and the third.
yeah. So when I did get hurt, same thing happened to me. It kind of stripped me of everything
Mm,
that I identified myself
mm,
as.
that's great.
And that was hard. Like, what you mean I can't run? Like for how long? 6 months to a year?
That's crazy.
It was devastating. like on so many levels, right? Because this is my brand. This is, and then it's like, oh, I got hurt. Like, how you're like, oh, superwoman. I had somebody message me and was like, I really look at you as like a superwoman. Like, I didn't think that this could happen to you. And
Man,
yeah, for me, that was like a check. I was like, wow. Like, so not only do I identify myself as this person, but other people view me that way too, which
hmm
hurts even more because you're like, now that I'm stripped away of that, how do people view me? Am I worthless? Like, you question your self-worth. And that's hard. And so I think over time, like in your marriage, in parenting, um, you lose all of that and then you have to come back to, like you said, what really matters most and what you really um what really represents you outside of all your titles.
yeah,
So I think we're talking about a couple of different things here, but it's really like staying true to yourself in a marriage, but also staying true to yourself when all those titles get stripped away from you,
yeah.
right? So we're like multi-level. um
It's just
it's
really
tough.
about how to stay true to yourself in life. So what does staying true to Martha look like?
um I don't know.
What does staying true to who you are
Yeah.
look like?
And I think this is a great question because one, I don't have all the answers and I don't have it all figured out. I'm still working through that process, because every like season or every time I change as an individual, that looks different.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like some days, staying true to myself looks like me giving myself time to just sit in silence. As simple as it sounds, but that's it. Like, we're so used to having so much chaos around, and not in a bad way, but just busy schedules, work, kids, content, everything. Just not doing anything really. It's like not having a plan, not having a schedule for a day maybe looks, or staying true to myself, like putting myself first from a health standpoint, um, going to the gym or getting some type of movement in, whether that be downstairs in the garage by myself or if we do a workout together. That is a part of me. And
yep,
that's something that's non
hmm
negotiable for me and for you too. Staying true to not even from a physical standpoint, but setting boundaries from family members, friends. That is something that I'm still learning how to do right, like to this day. Like just yesterday, I had a situation where I had to really, you know, stay true to myself and not let somebody else like take me out of my character. It's really hard to do when you're used to like I'm very passive. I don't like conflict. I don't like to start drama or anything. And then when it's brought to me, I tend to like try to push it away and not really confront. Um, I'm not
yeah,
confrontational. And so that is one other thing that I'm working on, staying true to myself. It's like I know inside, like I'm a good person. I have great intentions. My how I show up in the world, how I show up for other people is genuinely who I am. There's never a motive behind it or like me plotting to do anything. It's like, no, I genuinely show up. This is who Martha is. And so I can't compromise that by letting somebody else take me out of my character. So that's a huge part of staying true to myself.
yeah.
Long
That's deep.
winded.
That's deep. Because for me, staying true to myself, and you said a lot there. For me, staying true to myself is we talked about waking up, working out, and doing that, but my family is my identity. It's who I am. Like I'm not. It's it is what it is. Like I think there's this narrative about how do you stay true to yourself in a marriage, right? And people want their individual identities, which I think is important, and I have that too. But for me, I love being with my family. I love coaching my kids. I love spending time with my wife, right? Like That's all I want to do. It ain't, and then travel with my family, right? Like travel with my family, spend time with my family, work out with my family. And I get to work out by myself, so I love it. But like, I have a 22-year-old and a 1-year-old and a couple kids in between, right? The 22-year-old got 22 really fast, right? So that 1-year-old gonna be 22 really fast. So time is moving. So for me, staying true to myself is being present enough to know that the people I want to spend time with are right in front of me, right? Because
Mm.
time is ticking, right? We all got an expiration date.
Yeah. Well, we just said that staying true to yourself is not really like putting your titles right as a parent, but that's what you just attached yourself to.
Because that's me staying true to myself,
Yeah, yeah.
though,
I
right? Like,
agree. I
I
agree.
think you, again, I'm Solomon for sure. I'm an individual, but who I am, what I love to do is spend time with my family, is who I am,
Yeah.
right? And outside of my family, I mean, I work out, of course, I read, I do all this stuff, right? I have a career, I do a lot of speaking engagements, right? Like I've done a lot of stuff. But when I'm at my happiest,
Hmm.
when my smile is at its biggest, is when I'm with my family.
I agree. I agree. So, do you think you can stay true to yourself and self identify simultaneously and have that be balanced? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
not put
yeah,
too much on the title of dad or father, coach, you know, and not, I guess what I'm trying to say is like not being able to like separate the two when you need it,
that's
right?
what it's about.
Yeah.
That's a great assessment because there are times when I'm with the kids and I wish I wasn't, right? Just to be clear, right? I love my family to death. But there are times when I'm with the kids and I wish I wasn't. There are times when I'm with you and I wish I wasn't, right? And I know it's vice versa. My bad. I didn't mean to offend you.
No, it's okay.
But
I want you to be by yourself sometimes.
yeah, I think it's important, right? So I think, self care looks different to everybody. And I think the important piece is about like people have to individually identify what's important to them. And oftentimes, I don't think people are intentional enough to take the time to sit down and say, like, what's important to me?
Hmm.
What are the things that I value? How do I want to spend my time? I think most people just go through life just living, just existing. They aren't intentional about their days. And if you aren't intentional about your days, you're not going to be intentional about self care. You're not going to be intentional about like showing up for yourself.
Right. And I think that segues right into perfectly with it. Segment five is why identity matters to the very point that you just mentioned about being how you show up in the world. And that is right. That I mean, what else do you have? What else are we on this earth for, right? Other than to show up and be authentically who you are, live in your purpose, and make sure that you value the things that are important to you,
Yeah,
family, health, wellness, whatever, right? So, how to protect your identity. And I think we kind of talked about this a little bit as we wrap this up, just really giving people tools to use like moving forward. Like, I don't want this just to be a conversation about, what we go through and all the storms and situations, but like if someone had was able to relate to your story, like what could they take away from this? One, I think is important, how to protect your identity. Protecting your peace. That's pretty much that's a piece of it. A piece of
yeah. I
it.
mean, I like that. I think again, I talked about it briefly. I think it's important for people individually. I think it's important for people individually to identify what's important to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Most people don't take the time to sit down and say to themselves, what's important to me and how can I figure out and carve out time on a daily basis to do those things, or maybe it's a weekly basis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, if you may be someone that loves golf, right? If that's important to you, like how often are you going to spend time playing golf per week, right? if you identify at the start of the week how many hours that week you need to play golf to feel satisfied, and then you go out and do that thing. And then one, you've set a goal and then you accomplished it, so you feel an internal win. And then two, you did with the thing that you said gives you life. So for me, it's about identifying what matters to you and then being intentional about creating the time to do that thing to get the reward that's going to allow you to be happier and feel like you're still showing up for yourself.
I agree. I think I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but having a balance between selfishness and selflessness. And I think that's important because a lot of people, myself included, will think of being selfish as like, oh, you're not putting other people first or your kids, and how could you as a mom? But you actually have to so that you could show up full for them. So, one, you have to be a little selfish with your time, with your money, efforts. Sometimes you have to turn some things down, but also that allows you to be selfless as a whole and showing up for your family how you need to be. So to me, it's definitely a balance in that way.
So how do you give yourself permission? We're in practical tips.
Hmm.
Um, how do you how do you protect your identity in the marriage? Right? How do you stay true to yourself?
Yeah, just answer that.
Okay.
But practical practically, it looks like a couple of things that I mentioned. One, and I'm still working on this.
Yeah.
You told me earlier, like I told you, take some time for yourself, and if you want to go to the gym, if you want to take an overnight trip by yourself, like to me, that sounds great. But like realistically, am I gonna just book a hotel for a
Yes.
weekend?
Why wouldn't you?
Well,
Why wouldn't you? Because I would, like, without a doubt. Like, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I'm gonna start. I think that that's a part of the process. Like I'm not used to like not being here, and I'm not used to like having the kids not be around me. Like it's I'm
It's
working on it.
funny. It's funny because there was a time where you told me you were in one of those moments where you were like, I just need some time for myself, and then I take the kids to that place, that like water park where we were in the water and
And
we
I
were
was
having
like,
a
oh,
great
I
time,
wanted
and
to
she was
go.
like, oh, I wanted to go. Oh, why didn't you take me? I'm like, but you just said you needed some alone time, and I left you alone, and because we went and did something fun, you still wanted to be there.
I know. That's why it's so tough. It's hard, and I'm telling you, it's like if you are balanced, trying to figure out how to balance all of this, you just got to do what feels good, right? Like I know when I'm at my tipping point where I'd be like, I absolutely need, and for me, it's only like a day or even like a couple hours. Like I don't even feel like I need um, that much time, but yes, I do feel like if I did have that opportunity and we'll plan it, you just be like, just go next weekend. I'm like, I need to look ahead. Like, okay, maybe in the next couple of weeks or weekend, I'll plan to take myself to Napa or something, stay in a hotel, do a spa day, and I'll come back and be great.
All right,
All right.
let's give them some homework.
Okay.
What are what are some things that couples could do to? What are some recommendations you have for couples who want to maintain their individuality in their marriage, in their relationship?
I think it has to, well, you have to be in agreement. One, establish like what's important to each of you, right? Like you have different expectations than I do, right? So laying that down as a foundation first. And then from there, you can figure out how to maneuver around that to um, address those, needs or what the plan is to meet your expectation. So I think that's important.
And I think whatever list you create, right? You create a list of what your needs are. I think you got to share them with your spouse or your significant other, right? You got to have a conversation because it's important for the relationship, for two people to sit down and say, "Hey, here's what I need to be successful in this marriage or in this relationship. Here's what I need individually."
Hmm.
Right? So there are times where I need to go on a bike ride with my brothers in Oakland, right?
Right.
And that's important to me because
Right.
it gives me time to connect with them. Or there may be times where they come over here.
Yeah, so that's like two different lists, like what you need individually and what your expectation is as a whole or as a unit, as
Yeah,
a married
for
couple
sure.
or as a family or even three, right? Individual with your spouse and as a family with your kids. Like that all looks different,
100%.
right? So we'll get into that probably on another episode when the kids are here. But yeah, I think overall it opens up a conversation with your spouse about what you need, and you may not even, it may be something that you didn't even think you needed until you started having that conversation, right? Like even some stuff that we just discussed, in my head, I'm like, dang, we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all great advice.
But that's what these conversations are for, right? Really just to open up the dialogue about the importance of marriage, the importance of family, the importance of relationship, right? How do you stay true to yourself? How do you show up for the individuals that you're connected to in that family, in that marriage? Because all of it matters.
Yeah, I think the conversation is just being real and like being honest about what you need in your family. And when you establish that, you can be stronger together as a unit and individually. And I think
Yeah.
that's important.
And if you want to stay connected to these conversations with a bunch of other couples, join us on our school community. We'll be sharing more about the school community in future episodes. We're looking forward to it.
All right. We'll see you on the next episode of the Family Flex podcast.
Peace.
Peace out.